All right, Superintendent, board members, you ready?
We are.
Speak now or, try to keep up, I suppose. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education to order. It's November 4th. Looks like it's 5:31 by my clock. And we will start as ever with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. Does anybody want to lead the pledge and salute to the New Mexico flag today? If not, I'm happy to go ahead. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together. Thank you very much. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. And just to note, everyone, the board members, all four of us are here. We are missing Vice President Garcia at this stage. We have Secretary Bose, Dr. Gonzalez, and Board Member Anderson. Secretary or Vice President Garcia does seem to indicate he will be here. I just want to make everybody aware as we look at our agenda on our action item B, I will need to recuse myself and hand over the meeting and roll call to someone. If Vice President Garcia is here, that will be him. Otherwise, that will be Secretary Bose. But I do work for Growing Up New Mexico, so I will be turning off my camera, muting, and being completely absent for that item. Okay, is there anything that needs changing or questions on the agenda? I see a shaking of the head from the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the agenda.
I will second that.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez and Secretary Bose. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote for approval of the agenda. Secretary Bose.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
And the president also votes yes. Moving on to Roman numeral 2, introduction of interpreter. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Noble. At this point, Deputy Superintendent Romero, if you will.
Para servicio de traducción en español, marque 451-6064 a continuación. 701-802-5152 y número de acceso es 4277932 y por favor mantenga su teléfono en silencio durante la traducción.
Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent. Couple things before we move on. I would also like to welcome our student board members. We have Mr. Angus McGinnis, who has joined us, and we hope we will be joined by our other student board member, Stephanie Ibata. This is their first full board meeting, I believe. So welcome to both of you. And please, either if you're on camera, as you are, Mr. McGinnis, raise your hand manually, or you can use the icon on Zoom if you have any questions at any point, and I'll call on you and give you the floor. I also would like to ask that we have a moment of silence to start this meeting, just to acknowledge the passing of Leo Carrillo, the son of our former board member for 2 terms, Steve Carrillo. Leo was in a car accident and passed away on Friday. So if we could just have a moment of silence to think about him and send love to his family and friends that are left behind. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on with our agenda, we come to Roman numeral 3, our school board showcase, and we start tonight with Chaparral Elementary School art. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble. It is my great pleasure to introduce Principal Erica Martinez Maestas, as she will be guiding us through the Chaparral Elementary Art Showcase.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, and district leadership. It is my privilege to highlight our art program and 2 of our after-school programs. Our art club and book club are both funded with SFPS.
How do I mute and unmute?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, just to say that appears to be Vice President Garcia. I think it's *6 on Zoom. I don't know if anybody knows, but he seemed to be asking how to mute and unmute from his phone.
Mr. Abeta, do you know how you mute from the phone?
Well, worst case scenario, if he starts making too much noise, somebody can mute him for us. But welcome, Vice President Garcia. And we're on our school board showcase now with Chaparral Elementary School art. And we were just hearing from Principal Martinez Maestas. And sorry for the interruption. Please go ahead.
No worries. We know how to fly by the seat of our pants, right? Just go with the flow. So I'd like to introduce our esteemed art teacher, Mr. Lawrence, and he is going to be sharing a little bit about our art program and our art club. And Cody has his slideshow.
Good afternoon, board. President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, and district leaders, thank you so much for having us and letting us be part of tonight's meeting. As soon as Cody pulls up the presentation, we can begin. The art program is a really major part of Chaparral, and the art program has extended itself dramatically because of the use of the ESSER funds. Could advance 1 slide, please. Our program at Chaparral focuses on student learning in the 21st century. We currently explore issues and celebrate each individual and look at art making through a perspective that allows students to make connections to their own lives and to the community here at Chaparral. Students receive art lessons that follow common core standards, use elements and principles of art and design. Scaffolding is an important aspect of my art instruction and lesson planning for student success. Could you go on to the next slide, please? Chaparral art students most importantly learn studio habits of the mind. They learn and understand the process of art making, how to engage in the creative process, how to be present, how to envision their artwork, how to express themselves through their artwork, and how to make and watch, listen, and reflect on their creations, as well as how to search and explore within their art making. It's a really important part for me that the students get all aspects of that art making in their education. If you could scroll on to the next 9 slides are examples of student grade level artwork. I introduce students to artists, different concepts in weaving. As you can see from 2nd grade, artists like Lowell Birch, or Georgia O'Keeffe. We do the Art Smart program, and this is 3 of the 5th grade plates that they submitted this year. And then finally, we have a couple projects for the upper grades that do Zentangles, printmaking, and celebrate, their families as an aspect of the community. Okay. I created the Chaparral Art Club 7 years ago when I started here. It was a volunteer program I felt would provide additional art time to students who were motivated and interested in the arts. I didn't feel there was necessarily enough time for every student to get the time they needed during the day. And so I volunteered about 12 weeks. I would do an hour per day after school. But through this ESSER funding and the extended learning funds, we're able to offer this as well as the book club a full year. And I currently have 36 members in the art club, and that's going to grow. I had a number of students ask me today for slips. So this is exciting for us. And the following 7 slides just show a few examples of that. You can screw through that. I do, again, more artists. This was Monet. I do a lot of ceramics because I'm hobbit houses and clay boxes, clay cups, texture, other elements and principles, more printmaking. So thank you again for having us. You're more than welcome to come by the school and participate in the fun and come by the classroom. We'd love to have you. And again, thank you for having us. This is just a little bit about what I do. I think Erica now has a couple of videos from students in the book club.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. And we actually will have Superintendent Chavez and Dr. Gonzalez at our school this next week. So we'll be looking forward to showing you in real life the great things that are happening at Chaparral. So our students, like I said earlier, have the opportunity to be in both art and book club. And so several of our students created a video now to share a little bit about the book club. So Cody, if you will please play the loom. And hopefully it works like we practiced. While we wait a second, I'll just.
Go ahead. Mr. Donarski, were you able to play the video?
No, he's frantic.
Yes, I am working on getting it up. For whatever reason, it's hidden somewhere. So I'm getting it pulled up now.
Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Cody. I know it was kind of a pain to send two separate presentations, but our art club is run by one of our special ed teachers, Miss Morley, and she's opened it up to all grade levels, so K-6. She's really working this year on trying to navigate how to manage the K-6 because the kids have different needs. So right now she has actually split the art club into 2 so that we can have the littles on a couple days and then the older kids, or the littles 1 day a week and the older kids on a different day. So here are Carolina, Deja, and Juliet.
My name is Catalina. I am in 5th grade and I am going to talk about Chaparral Book Club. I have been in book club for 2 years. Book club helps me work better in groups and talk about the book we are reading. It helps me do better in class when we work in groups. The books we read are books that all of us agree on. Sometimes we break into groups and after we read our little books, we meet up and answer questions about the book. I like to draw pictures of the main character or what is happening in the book. It is awesome how everybody that wants to join book club can. Nobody is left out. From 1st grade to 6th grade, boy or girl. We have a pair of siblings in our group, neighbors, classmates, and friends. I'm very happy that we have a book club in our school. My name is Deja Rose, and I'm in 5th grade. This is my first year in book club. Book club has helped me read more and have learned to read longer words. I have also started reading more chapter books. My favorite chapter from Arusha is Medusa. Then I like to work in groups and talk about each chapter, what they're doing.
My name is Juliet. I am in 3rd grade. I have been in book club for 2 years. A book we read last year was Bridge to Terabithia. I liked the book a lot because it was a fantasy book. My favorite character was a girl named Leslie. She liked to imagine and she liked to go on adventures. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
So, Board President Noble, Superintendent Chavez, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about Chaparral. And I remind our kids in our community every single day that Chaparral is a place where we tell our kids that we love them and care about them every single day and every chance that we get. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez Maestas and Mr. Lawrence, for joining us. And just want to also acknowledge our art coordinator for the district, Christina Gonzalez, who's also with us, though she may be here for another reason. But of course, there's a lot to embedding art throughout in all our schools, and we appreciate knowing about Art Club and about Book Club from Chaparral.
Madam
Okay.
President,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to make a comment. First of all, my apologies. My internet isn't too well here in La Cienega. However, I would just like to thank him for actually the volunteer work that he did and taking the ESSER funds to fruition and creating a awesome art class. One of the pre-COVID, and I used to walk into the auditorium there where we have our meetings. I used to love to look to the left there and see all the artwork from the different schools every time we had a meeting. It's just awesome that the talent that students have at such a young age. Great job, anywhere from the pottery, ceramics to the watercolors. That actually started my meeting good and made my meeting well when I looked at the wall there to the right. Also, the book club reminds me whenever I was a kid, we used to have some sort of a book club and reading time where you actually sat for 20 minutes in quiet time and read a book. But great job to Chaparral. Thank you for what you do for the community. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Vice President. Okay, moving to our next school board showcase, Santa Fe High School.
One moment.
Yep, I'm sorry, Dr. Gonzalez.
I also wanted to thank Chaparral, and I'm really looking forward to going there next week to see what you all are doing. So thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next school board showcase, Santa Fe High School art.
Thank you, Board President Noble. It's my great pleasure to introduce our award-winning art coordinator. And we'll make that announcement a little later, Christina, so please stay on. Christina Gonzalez, again, she's our district art coordinator. And again, we'll make an announcement a little later about an award that she was just given. So, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Chavez, President Noble, Vice President Garcia, and members of the board. You're actually getting a double, triple dose of art this evening. I wanted to present to you this evening the ceramics and crafts work from Santa Fe High School. As many of you know, when people think of art, they often think of painting and drawing. And that's kind of the first thing that people think of is painting and drawing. But of course, the arts also encompass sculpture, crafts, ceramics, photography, printmaking. Those are some of the traditional art and design forms. And now with contemporary genres and subgenres such as installation, earthworks, performance art, light and space movement, and of course, lots of digital arts, digital photography, film, media arts, new media, animation, computer animation, motion graphics. The potentials is limitless for Santa Fe Public Schools to grow its art programs. Today, you're just going to see a little slice of ceramics and crafts. And Cody, I believe you have a video to share.
Well, hello there. I'm Heidi Long. I've been here at Santa Fe High School now going on 7 years. How I got interested in ceramics, I've been doing ceramics since high school. It's just a passion.
I think we're having some technical difficulties with the videos this evening, but it's I'm thinking that Cody might be trying to pull that back up.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected from Zoom for whatever reason. What part did we leave off at?
Might just started at the beginning. It was very close to the beginning. That way we get the whole experience. We don't seem to have sound this time.
Cody, we don't have the sound. We can see the video playing. There you go.
Well, hello there. I'm Heidi Long. I've been here at Santa Fe High School now going on 7 years. How I got interested in ceramics, I've been doing ceramics since high school. It's just a passion. I mean, there's so much you can do with clay, and I get excited watching my students because I've been a professional artist for over 30 years, and now I'm giving back. And I'm giving back all the information that I've learned being a ceramic sculptor for 30 years back to my students. So it's exciting seeing this new generation of possibly our next artists. So this is what gets me excited about teaching high school. Plus I get to have some from freshmen all the way to their senior year. And I watch them grow. And as being a mom and a teacher, it's one of the most
My name is Lucas. I am a senior this year, and I've been taking advanced ceramics for 4 years now. I accidentally took this class, and then I ended up falling in love with it, and I've been in it for 4 years now. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me.
So my name is Sarah Gilman, and I am the crafts teacher here at Santa Fe High School. I have been teaching crafts for the past 5 years, I believe. In crafts, the 4 levels of crafts that I teach, it encompasses culturally relevant, usable art forms. What those art forms entail or materials used, they include basket weaving, metal jewelry, glass working in a variety of forms, such as fused glass, stained glass, and I think I'm probably forgetting something, but yeah.
Hello, I'm Adriana Almanzar. I'm a senior here at Santa Fe High School. This is crafts. I'm a 3rd year crafts student. So my interest in crafts, I love how instead of just putting something on a piece of paper, you actually get to create stuff with your hands and make it 3D. Sure if I'm going to be in the crafts field, but I do want to keep making it.
There was a little bit of a lag there, sound, a disconnect between the visuals and the sound. But anyway, you get a little bit of an impression of what's happening there. And thank you very much for giving us this time.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. We appreciate it. And maybe we can get the video sent to us because apparently Cody needs a trunk line connection too. But yeah, if you can send us a link or something to that video, that'd be great. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Board President Noble. And Christina, so just so you know, it's a great video, a great look into the arts at Santa Fe High. And I have 3 pieces of pottery in my office on display. So wonderful pieces. I show them off whenever I get a chance. So thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead, Secretary Bezek.
Thank you. As the wife of a ceramic sculptor, I just have to say that I'm very impressed. That is some amazing looking artwork from those students. So it's clear that the program is, and I'm just super duper impressed. So thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Once again, thank you for the presentation. Very great job. I have seen the ceramic pieces that the superintendent has in his office, and those pieces are so detailed. It's amazing that just the talent that they have once again. Also, in regards to film art, there was roughly about 3.5 weeks ago, there was about 10 students that were going to go to a film set because Santa Fe County has the department division called the film office. And roughly about 10 students were going to go and see how a production is made, see how the cameras work for the very detailed, amazing camera work. But unfortunately, due to the situation that happened at one of the film sets, that was canceled. So the film industry actually isn't allowing anybody on any of their sets, understandable. But just for the kids that are listening, please possibly get with Alma because they're in the future here. Santa Fe Film Office does have some openings for the students, high school students, to go tour and see how cameras work, sets work, so on and so forth. But just for information. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, moving swiftly along. We arrive at Roman numeral 4, public forum. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble. At this time, I would like to introduce our Public Information Officer, Mr. Cody Donarski, as he will read our public forum.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. There are 5 people signed up for public forum comment tonight. Rules for public forum. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. There will be no sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue is only allowed during public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. The first public forum comment is from Mark Becker. I apologize. My name is Mark Becker. My wife and I are former educators who transitioned into being children authors and educational book publishers. We have 2 elementary age appropriate books that we would like to present to Santa Fe Public Schools. Both of our books, Zinger in the Woods and Zinger en el Bosque, the bilingual edition of Zinger in the Woods, has been adopted by the New Mexico Department of Education as supplementary materials. Zinger in the Woods and Zinger en el Bosque teach STEM, emotional intelligence, and reading comprehension through storytelling. Both books are about a homeless dog finding his best friend. Please see the following PDF attachments of Zinger in the Woods and Zinger en el Bosque. Thank you for your time, and let's improve New Mexico's 50% illiteracy rate and 76% graduation rate. The next comment is from Brooke Turnquist. Dear School Board and Superintendent Chavez, I am deeply troubled by the inefficiencies in our Human Resources Department. Due to changes in the staffing of the HR department, we cannot find, hire, or retain substitute teachers. I was outraged to hear that one of our best, most reliable substitute teachers has not been paid in a month. How can we keep substitutes who are already in scarce supply if we do not pay them on time? Moreover, I know of 2 teachers with 25 plus years of experience who cannot be hired as substitute teachers with SFPS because of some clerical error or bureaucratic oversight and backlog. Please step in and take whatever measures are necessary to make sure HR runs smoothly and efficiently. Staffing and retaining staff, especially subs, should be our top priority right now in the district. The next comment is from Mary Ellen Gonzalez. The League of Women Voters wishes to make this statement to the Santa Fe Board of Education. The League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County comments for Santa Fe Public School Board. Regarding the SFPS Board Resolution 2021-2022 for staffing crisis, although we cannot comment on specific items in the proposal, the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County supports the following. The League believes that the state of New Mexico should provide adequate funding to attract and retain a well-qualified education workforce that reflects the diversity of New Mexico students, and that educator salaries should be competitive with other professions requiring similar skills. The League also supports efforts to increase the availability of safe, decent, and affordable housing for moderate and low-income households, through strategies including public and private partnerships. The League has no position on any further components of the resolution. The next comment is from Stacy Berkman. Hello, Board President Noble and members of the board. I am a 4th grade teacher in Santa Fe Public Schools. I am writing to ask for your help. As you are aware, we are in desperate need of substitute teachers. Currently in our building, and I know probably every school building in Santa Fe, classroom teachers, specials teachers, aides, and administrators are scrambling to cover classes when a teacher is absent. This means missed prep periods, missed collaboration time, extra duties, and maybe no lunch. It means teachers who really need a personal day choosing to stay at work instead because they feel guilty about leaving colleagues in a bind. It means school principals covering multiple classes or duties in a day when they need to be attending to other things. This is exhausting for everyone because we try to do our own work, which is substantial, but then also worry about how to make sure each class is covered every hour of every day while we continue to deal with the effects of a global pandemic. We need qualified caring substitutes leading our students when regular teachers are unable to be there. I know there are simply not enough subs to go around, yet we can all name several highly qualified, eager to help out recently retired teachers who would work as substitute teachers in our schools, but they are prohibited from doing so because of policies that keep them out of our classrooms. Newly retired teachers have restrictions on the number of hours they can work in a week or risk losing their well and hard-earned retirement pay. This doesn't make sense pre-COVID, and it certainly makes no sense right now when we so desperately need substitutes. Who better than our experienced retired colleagues to come work with our kids when we can't be here? I am asking you, President Noble, and assembled board members to find a way to welcome our recently retired teachers back to work as substitutes. Work with our school boards, the state legislature, or the governor, or whomever you need to craft legislation or an emergency executive order to lift the restrictions that keep retired teachers out of our schools. Those who would come back after years of dedicated service to work as substitutes should be able to do so without worry of losing the retirement they deserve. With COVID numbers currently increasing in our schools, we are only going to need more help. Please take action to support your staff and administrators, and most importantly, the students of Santa Fe Public Schools. Last public comment is from Michael Barrio. The coalition strongly supports the measure before you tonight. As a coalition, we recognize the necessity for our educators to live in and truly be a part of the communities they serve, and further, that this is impossible without addressing the affordability issue in Santa Fe. It is critically important that our educators are provided with the opportunity and option to live in the communities they work in and educate our children so that they can truly understand and integrate the values of those communities in their curriculum. Please consider the long-term ramifications and benefits that this ensures that this will ensure, I apologize. Please consider the long-term ramification and benefits that this measure will afford our communities for generations to come. I apologize. There was a few misspellings. And that is it for public forum comment tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donarski. Appreciate it. Moving on our agenda, we are at Roman numeral 5, the union update. And I did see our NEA President Grace Mayer in earlier. Welcome, Ms. Mayer.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to bring up a few concerns, some of which were brought up at public forum regarding our substitute issue and some other situations that I think the board should be aware of and the community at large, frankly. But first, I'd like to talk about the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine being available for children now 5 and older. That's something that we have to celebrate at this point in the pandemic. The National Education Association is always been had as a priority the health and safety of our students and our staff. And we encourage our community parents to go get your children vaccinated as soon as you can, if they are able to take the vaccine. And on that note, I'd also like to acknowledge our district school nurses for the extraordinary lengths they're taking to keep students and staff safe and healthy throughout this ongoing pandemic. And I say ongoing because we're still not completely out of it. And I see how difficult that their job has become. And we're really thankful for them for all the work that they're doing in communicating with parents about their students regarding healthcare options that might be available to them within our city and our community. And I want to thank them for their exceptional professionalism while they're doing that. Many of the comments that we heard, or a few of the comments that we heard regarding staffing issues, obviously are going to be dealt with this resolution, which we're really excited that the board is putting forward and taking a strong position. Just to give a little bit of background of some of what we're dealing with, because we have some shortages, obviously teachers have to and other staff have to take on additional responsibilities, and a lot of their work gets put on hold. They are selling their prep time, which means they don't have the ability to advance their curriculum in their particular subject or grade level. And our counselors and our principals are all pitching in to remedy some of that. What's exasperating a little bit of what's happening is that there are some new public education department requirements that we're having to negotiate and deal with. And I think it's been challenging for Deputy Superintendent Romero to navigate some of these some of this, but we're doing the best that we can to try to convince the PED to extend the length of time that we have to accomplish some of those mandates. However, I really believe that the community, I'm sorry, my dog is really going at something at the door. So I apologize for that. But the public education department has to realize that some of our students haven't been back in the classroom, haven't been in the classroom for 2 years. We're trying to acclimate them to the environment, to what it is to be a learner, a student learner, and especially our youngsters who basically we have not just kindergarten, but all of first grade are pretty much kindergarten kids. But not only that, our middle school kids, some of which have never, weren't in school all of last year. We did come back at the end, but basically half our students came back. So we still haven't really been able to address some of the social and emotional learning efforts that we were trying to implement. And now with not having enough staff to sort of cover, and then requirements from the PED to make advancements like accelerated learning and other things, there's a lot of pressure on staff, and it's really not helping morale or our students, because we know what our students need, and we need to be in a position to provide some of that. And we can't do that if we can't do the work necessary to advance our curriculum, because we're taking over other classes because of vacancies, or there's professional development being mandated from the state of New Mexico, which at this point, a lot of us believe is a little heavy-handed. and none of these experiences right now are sustainable. We can't sustain what we're doing any longer than we have. And I'm afraid it's taking its toll on our educators. And I'm including in the word educator all of NEA Santa Fe, the bargaining unit, which includes our bus drivers, our nurses, our secretaries, our educational assistants. We're at a point now where I think we're at a tipping point with some of this. And so I'm glad that we're working together as a school board, as a district, with the superintendent and deputy superintendent to pass this resolution about a staffing crisis, because it's not only about housing and issues that are happening within the city of Santa Fe. It's also about the lack of support for educators in childcare. We have many families who, that work for Santa Fe Public Schools who do not have the ability to pay the outrageous sort of costs that are there for that are childcare expenses. So they make the decision to sometimes leave the profession, and we really need to stop that and try to figure out how we can put our heads together to come up with positive solutions to solve a lot of these different problems. The one speaker who also talked about the return to work teachers, the retired folks that would like to come back. We do need to work with the legislature to try to change those requirements, because there is such a crisis for staff and for teachers that we should really acknowledge that is a hindrance to, public education in the state of New Mexico. And if we can acknowledge that shorten the period of time that educators have to wait out before they return to work, like reduce it to a month or 3 weeks. I think we would benefit from having those return to work folks come back sooner. And if they want to become substitutes, we shouldn't limit the number of days that they can work or their salaries. But I just want to thank the school board and the superintendent and the deputy superintendent for being responsive to our survey and taking immediate action to try to remedy some of this situation. So we look forward to the passage of the resolution on staffing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mayor. Appreciate all that. Lots of insight. Moving along to our student board members' announcements and follow-up. So Mr. McGinnis, this is you, I think, tonight. Do you have anything you want to bring to the board or announce?
I do not.
Okay, no worries. Anytime you do, this will be on the agenda. Next, we have our board announcement and follow-up, and we'll start with our legislative priorities and legislative breakfast. And Superintendent, you can tell me how, if you have a plan to do this. I've seen the draft document. I don't know if it was shared with the rest of the board, and I see that we have our partner in this exercise, Ms. Linda Siegel, who, and actually just to take a minute, I was going to do this later, but now that Linda's here, I want to say congratulations to Linda for winning her seat on the governing body of the Santa Fe Community College. And also congratulations to board member Anderson. It's weird to say congratulations to me as well, but we both, of course, won our elections to serve a term on the Santa Fe Public School Board. That term officially begins January 1, but it's an honor to serve. And maybe we'll start with you, board member Anderson. I don't know if you want to make any comments on your somewhat predictable, but nonetheless significant election.
Thank you, Board President Noble. I am, just as I was incredibly honored to be appointed to the board, I am very honored to be elected to the board. I look forward to the beginning of my elected term. And I think that the next 4 years are going to be filled with a lot of learning. And hopefully some action on behalf of our students, our staff, and our families. I think that we have an incredible board composition. I think we have an incredible leadership team at the district, and I really look forward to making things happen for the SFPS community. And also congratulations, Board President Noble. Maybe it feels less awkward if someone else does it.
It really does. Thank you. Appreciate that. Fortunately, I realized the other morning, I was like, this is a big deal. I want something to market. And I got into the office and my colleague had put together a vase of flowers for me. So that was very, very nice. And Ms. Siegel, congratulations to you. We'll start with you as somebody who just won another term to the Santa Fe Community College board. Do you want to say any words with that hat on?
Well, thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the congratulations. It was a tough race, you know, just like yours, unopposed, which is somewhat disturbing because we would like more people to be engaged in the process and be interested in our higher education and our public school education leadership and governance. So that, I guess I was sort of disappointed, but not really, because then I didn't have to raise a lot of money, as you all know.
Yes, it's a relief when you're running unopposed, but I'm with you. We want more engagement and more people stepping up to run for something. Okay, so now we can talk about our legislative priorities, as we appreciate Ms. Siegel, who helps guide us through our legislative priorities and through our legislative session as our lobbyist. And we have a draft document from the superintendent, and we can pull it up and talk it through, or I don't know if anybody has a particular approach to this item. I would suggest we pull it up and talk it through then, if we can.
Madam President?
Yes.
Madam President?
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Apologies for not having my camera, but so the presentation that Ms. Siegel is actually going to present to us, is that regarding capital requests and or legislative priorities such as, I'd like Ms. Siegel to actually explain to maybe the new board members her role and what she does out there for us and how she follows the bills that actually affect the public education department as well as our schools and the capital outlay request that she follows. If she can give us a little update on that, that would help us out. And then in regards to the presentation, once again, is that actually legislative priorities such as capital outlay what the public education department is. And Ms. Siegel, I don't know if you can tell us what what's on the agenda from the governor's office in talking about the public education department statewide. So those are just the comments, questions I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take it one at a time. Vice President Garcia, are you able to see the screen? With the legislative priority document that's shared?
No, I actually, but I can vision it, but I will get a copy of that from Alma tomorrow morning. But proceed, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, to answer your first question, it includes both really sort of legislative priorities, which amount to a certain amount of budget priorities, as well as capital requests. So we'll be going through that document. And let's see, to the overview you requested, Ms. Siegel, will you make some comments on your role and how it all works?
Happy to. Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Superintendent and board members, what I do as your lobbyist is really, I'm your voice up there at the session because you all can't be there. You have your regular jobs plus your board duties. And at times I will contact the superintendent and Josh to say, okay, we need some calls in, or we need somebody to come up and talk to this legislator. But we have a very good Santa Fe delegation, and they are very supportive of public education. They have been supportive of capital outlay requests when we've had money. And so it's really to be your ears and your voice. I will support bills that you support. I will talk to other legislators that aren't in our delegation about general education issues, because legislators want to hear from their constituents. But they're also interested overall in, all of them are interested in public education. So even though Santa Fe is viewed as having so much money and no problems, which of course is not necessarily true, it is good for me to talk to other people and to work with the leadership. I listen to many of the LESC meetings, the Legislative Education Study Committee meetings, to see what they're thinking about for the next session. And there's been a lot of conversations on increasing teacher salaries, on finding solutions to get more teachers into the profession, to look at the new PED secretary's ideas and plans. In fact, he is supposed to come out with his plan by, I think, mid-December, and how we're going to expand and address the issues in the Yazzie lawsuit. So I work with these multiple entities and people to get your message out. And I think that at our meeting with the delegation on the 10th, the 9th, that will be an opportunity for you all to speak. And we do have a number of them attending in person or on the Zoom. So that's what I do.
Thank you very much. And just to say, we are scheduled for November 6th. Now I'm doing it. November 9th, 7:30. And we will be masked and distanced in the boardroom for this. The superintendent is saying yes. So that'll be at 610 Alta Vista. And that will be nice. And we do have an incredible delegation from Santa Fe. Many of them do often attend and listen. We are critical constituents. And as Ms. Siegel mentioned, there's a lot of course, I think we all know, a lot of discussion about education this year. So does somebody want to take the lead on talking us through these priorities?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Noble, members of the board. Again, this is just a draft document as it currently sits, and this is still up for discussion for us to work on to present to our delegation Tuesday. So again, it has our legislative priorities and it also includes our capital asks. So what we wanted to do is really make our asks reasonable. How do we connect it? How do we work with our union and our school board? And so the four at this point are no cuts to education, a 10% increase in educator salary to compete with salaries from neighboring states, hold education harmless, and then the ERB, or the Education Retirement Board, to change and allow teachers to return once they retire. Just as we go through this, I'll start scrolling. Let me know. We are, hoping to pass the staffing crisis resolution this evening. And again, that really does directly impact what we can do currently and in the future. I think we are in a crisis in education, not only for the COVID-19 pandemic due to it, but also the staffing across the district. It's not just educators. We are looking at a staffing crisis for bus drivers, student nutrition, you name it. And I think that is common across the state. So it is a crisis, and I think that we need to acknowledge it. Again, what we want to do is really kind of see how our platform and priorities are shared across the district. The Superintendents Association has a very similar platform as we included in the document. Sufficiently fund districts, again, modify a required ERB for a return to work, protect the SEG levels to align with pre-COVID enrollment. And that is how we are funded, right? They're looking at trying to ask for our funding to revert back to enrollment to pre-pandemic. So right now, as we've seen across the district, everybody has lost enrollment, and we're asking to fund this on the numbers prior to the pandemic. Protect operational reserves to help navigate unforeseen challenges as we've all gone through during the pandemic. In 2020, House Speaker Egoff did ask for a 10% increase in salaries, which was not approved. So again, we are backing that and wanting to see if we can get educator salaries at 10% for this upcoming school year. And that would be a great priority for everyone across the state to really get behind, so we can pay our staff appropriately. As we start going through, we have our capital priorities. We're covering everything from technology to outdoor learning spaces, HVAC upgrades, mainframe, as some of you guys have been in meetings with me, even here at 610 Alta Vista. I've had trouble on Zoom when I freeze 2 or 3 times. So again, we want to make sure that we're able to have an infrastructure at not only our admin site, but also BF Young, where Deputy Superintendent and her team reside. And that way we are taking a lot of meetings online without disruption. So we are looking at an ask in infrastructure at the admin sites. We are also looking at safety and security for AEDs, automated external defibrillators, and seeing if we can provide something like that at every one of our sites. I'm sorry about my light. It's Lisa Randall will be happy because it turns off every time I do not move for an extended time. Operations, again, we are referencing our facility master plan, and of course with the bond and the mill levy, that's going to help, but it does not cover everything. So we are looking at safety and following to accelerate progress towards addressing other needs district-wide. As you can see, some of the sites have been called out: EJ Martinez, Santa Fe High Business Center. We've provided rationale as to why we think it is a priority. COVID response and projects for HVAC upgrades, Carlos Gilbert, Chaparral, or mentioned Tesuque. Again, these are just upgrades, and also to ensure that moving forward, we have high air quality. We do meet or exceed currently, and this would help us just continue to be at the forefront of providing a safe learning environment, not only for our staff, but also our students. Outdoor learning spaces and dining, an expansion. And again, this is also to help mitigate the spread of COVID. Again, we've identified 3 sites: Cesar Chavez, Acequia Madre, and Sweeney, as potential asks to really expand what we can offer there. So we're going through, Union President Mayor would be happy. We've also included our teacherage request and ask and broken it down how, and also some possible sites as well. So again, this is a working document. I've shared it with all of the board members. And again, this is something that we want to prepare so we can have to present to our legislators and our delegation on Tuesday morning.
Thank you, Superintendent. And can you tell us how the capital priorities were identified? And then we'll go to questions, other questions from the board.
Absolutely. They were identified through our facility master plan, but also we included how the pandemic took a toll on us this year. We want to be able to provide outdoor learning spaces, expand playgrounds, outdoor eating. So it's really in conjunction with our facility master plan, how what's covered now with both the mill levy and GO bond, the passage of the two, and then how we can accelerate some of the priorities that may have fallen a little further down on the list of the facility master plan, so we can continue to move the district forward.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Madam President, I have a question.
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President. This might be a question for Mr. Siegel. I recently talked to a board member out of a large county in Arizona, as well as a staff member, and the state of Arizona actually has lowered some of the substitute requirements or teaching requirements to a certain point that everybody agreed to, unions, so on. And I was wondering, do you know, Linda, if the Public Education Department, do you have any idea where the secretary is going to go in his request to the governor or the state legislature?
Madam President, Mr. Vice President, I know that there has been some discussion, and I think we're going to see what the new HED secretary has in mind for many issues when he comes out with his plan in early to mid-December. But I haven't heard anything.
I mean the PED secretary, not the higher.
I'm sorry. The PED secretary, I reverted for a moment. Thank you. And I think that's going to give us a picture of some of the things that the governor will have as a priority. You know, on the issue of capital outlay, there is going to be over $2 billion in either Fed money, or there's about 600 million from our severance tax bonding. So there is going to be a lot of one-time only, mostly probably used for capital money. So this will hopefully enable you to get some of these projects that you really want, and I know you really want all of them, but fully funded. I feel pretty good about capital outlay this year after what, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the governor line item vetoed everybody's capital outlay.
So, Madam President, Linda, thank you for that. The capital money that comes forward is obviously from oil and gas. So the additional money that's above and beyond oil and gas revenue, is that actually coming from stimulus money from the federal government?
Madam President, Vice President Garcia, yes. Some of it is the ARPA money. That is one-time only money. But in addition, we have a lot of our own severance tax money.
Vice President Garcia. Okay, go ahead.
Madam President, thank you, Linda, for that. And I look forward to seeing you at the breakfast, and then we can talk a little bit more about the future of our public education department through the state of New Mexico. I would love to see a lot more information from the higher ups as into where we're going with public education. But nonetheless, I know it has to be on the radar screen. But I look forward to seeing you here next week or so. Thank you, Linda.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, members of the board, Linda Siegel. I was in an event with Secretary Steinhaus this weekend, and he told me he took 3 priorities to the governor, and he told me the 3 priorities were, well, we only got 2 of them, and then we got into a discussion, so I never heard the 3rd one. But the first 2 were career and technical education, and the second one was increase teacher salaries. So I know, and then I also talked with Senator Stewart today after seeing the LESC report about the IRS is fine with, allowing teachers to return to work. It's the ERB.
Yes.
And as she said, as Senator Stewart said before, when it was Jan Goodwin, she could just call her up and ask her, what's the deal? Can we change this? And now, there's a new person, so she's not that connected to her, but she will bring it up at the next LESC meeting, which I think is next week. Thank you. That's it.
Madam President, if I might, on that one point, particularly about the salaries, LFC, LESC, they've all been talking about increasing the salaries. It's just, I don't think they've reached the number yet.
Yeah.
Or they haven't told us.
Board Member Anderson.
Thank you, Board President Noble. And hi, Linda. It's nice to meet you. I just had a question, and it's probably a beginner question, and so apologies. Are all of these things included under the budget, or do other things have to be, like, do these have to be included on the governor's call, or are they all things that can go through the budget call, and rather than having to be especially on the governor's call? I guess my question is, does she have to approve sort of all of these things before we see them in action?
Madam President, Board Member Anderson, no, if it has to do with money, this is a budget session by statute. Right. So anything related to money, revenue, can be, it will be heard. So the big budget, House Bill 2, which is in this current year about $7.5 billion. All of that budget, which will increase substantially, because there is also about 1.5 billion available in new recurring money. So we're going to see a significant increase in various line items, including public education, in this next budget. Now, if it's a statutory change, a change in a law, then the governor has to put it on what's called her call, C-A-L-L, in order for it to be discussed and voted on by the legislature. And then the capital money, that's all part of what this session's about.
Right. Do you mind if I follow up, Board President?
No, keep going. You've got the floor.
So I guess my two specific questions then are hold harmless and the ERB change on the call, or do those both fall under the budget?
Madam President, Board Member Anderson, those would be, that's a statutory change. So the ERB would definitely have to be approved. And I know, well, I have heard that the governor is going to put on legislation to allow retired law enforcement to come back to work. So I see no reason why she wouldn't allow retired teachers to also come back to work, but we'll have to see.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, Linda Siegel, I was just told this afternoon that the police it's not going to get approved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And And one of the other things, apparently, PERA, one of the reasons why they've stopped allowing return to work was people used to retire at 42, stay out 3 months, and then go right back to work and get their salary.
Right.
And, you know, it's been a little different in education, but part of I think the ERB's reluctance is that it does impact the bottom line of the funds that are for retirees. So,
Right. Well, we'll see then. I know that you almost, I'm sorry, Madam President.
Go ahead.
That you almost know that the governor did allocate that 35 million of ARPA funds for the teachers' aid education so that they can become teachers. And I'm wondering if you all have seen any of that, or do you know, is it really happening?
We applied to participate.
Great, thank you, Superintendent.
And no answer on our application yet, I'm guessing.
No, we will reach back out because they are short-staffed as well, just like we are. And so we are seeing a delay in response from PED on some of these, asks or applications we're submitting. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I hope we can push hard on that because there's lots of reasons maybe not to do it in the past, but as we heard some of the good examples in our public comment tonight, we are in a whole new world of hurt in staffing, and there are people who would like to help and aren't able to at this stage.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments from the board? Superintendent, how do you see this playing out? And, with I always feel like we need to give our legislators a document to take away with our legislative priorities. What do you want to happen between now and then?
Yeah, I think I did share it with all of the board members. If we can add comments, maybe make some edits, there could be some additional asks. You may have some questions for me as far as why we've prioritized some of these items. Maybe there's some other capital outlay requests that you may have in mind. So I think if we continue to shore up this document in preparation for Tuesday morning's meeting, we'll have a very solid document to present to them. And Linda, I think we did also share it with you, didn't we?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have it.
Okay, board members, you good with that? I'm hoping somebody, I think I might be available, but I'm hoping somebody else might also commit to looking at it maybe late-ish Monday afternoon and saying it feels good to them.
Madam President, I'm committed to look at it Monday afternoon.
Okay.
I will too.
All right, great. We have some board member volunteers to be on that. Appreciate that. Anything else on this board discussion? All right, Ms. Siegel, thank you very much. Congratulations again. We appreciate your work with us and your service to the Santa Fe Community College and all the things that you do for this community.
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent, board members, thank you. Bye.
Congratulations.
See you on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there other board announcements? Is that what we're on? I think that's what we're on. Yes, board announcements and follow-up.
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up for discussion, we have this meeting with the community of Cesar Chavez. As you know, just wanted to, for the individuals that are listening out there, yes, we have followed through with the superintendent. We will be looking at the challenges that we have out there. Secondly, in regards to the resolution that we have tonight in regards to the workforce for the public schools, that will be on the county commission agenda for approval here at the next county commission meeting. So I just wanted to give the board just an update on the resolution of what we met on last Wednesday night, I believe. But thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So is that next week? Vice
No,
President?
it's not next week. No, it's Madam President. No, it's not next week. It's the last Tuesday of November.
Okay, so the 30th maybe.
Yes, not maybe. Yes. Thank you.
All right, that's great news. Thank you very much. Any other board announcements or discussion items and follow-up? Board announcements and follow-up. I'm guessing, Superintendent, you might address this in your updates, but as we heard earlier, we do have approval for vaccines for children 5 to 11. This is perhaps the biggest news for our school district in a little while. And I'm sure that there is a lot going on to make these accessible to as many families as possible whose kids are able to take the vaccines. So we will, I hope, be sharing information on that throughout the district.
I will. Absolutely.
All right. Good on board announcements and follow-up. Then we can move on to superintendent announcements and follow-up. I know there's lots to say here, so Superintendent, please.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. First, I also would like to congratulate you and on your re-election, and also board member Sasha Anderson on her official election. So again, congratulations, and I'm proud to be working with you. It is also a tremendous thank you to the Santa Fe voters for passing the GO bond and mill levy. The vote on the GO bond was at 79%, and it was close to 17,000 votes for. And we were up against 21% who voted against, which was just over 4,000 votes, for a total of 21,000 votes on the two measures. The vote on the mill levy was 73% for and 27% against. And again, roughly 20,600 votes were cast. The mill levy percentages are identical to the 2018 results, but we far exceeded the percentage of support for the GO bond over the 2017 election by 11%, by a wide margin. So again, I want to thank the voters out there that really came out and voted in favor of public education in our schools. The percentage increase for voters was also very impressive. Now we know and we understand that it was not a normal cycle for us, and we actually joined the general election. For the GO bond, there was a 154% increase in voters in 2021 over 2017. For the mill levy, there was a 198% increase in 2021 over 2018. The election impacts students' futures through smart, adaptable schools, improved facilities, and expanded energy and water conservation in outdoor classrooms. I want to congratulate the board, Deputy Superintendent Christy Wagner, her team, our students who participated in the campaign, and everyone else who helped out in this election. So thank you again. Again, we're very happy with the results and excited about the impact that this will have on our students.
On that, Superintendent, I just want to underline that I've actually been meaning for the past 2 work days, which have been very busy, to send an email of appreciation to you, to Deputy Superintendent Yonda Wagner, and to ask that you pass that along to everybody who worked on this. These numbers are extraordinary. And of course, this was a consolidated election. We didn't know how it would go. And I haven't done huge analysis on everything that was on people's ballots, but I'm pretty sure that the GO bond and mill levy seem to outperform almost everything. So I think that is a testament to an incredibly strong education campaign and value proposition that was given there to the voters. So thank you, Deputy Superintendent. I know you worked incredibly hard and we're worried about it. And to everybody, please pass on to the team that worked hard on this. I know everybody was on pins and needles, but my goodness, this was a strong showing. So really huge thanks and congratulations to everybody, and most of all to the voters of Santa Fe, who really did turn out for public education this time. And we are so grateful and thankful that we can keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll share your message. Thank you. Moving on, Santa Fe Public Schools response to the New Mexico Social Studies Standards. The district has prepared a response to the New Mexico Public Education Department on the proposed New Mexico Social Studies Standards. The response is due by email to the New Mexico Public Education Department by November 12th. We will also participate in the oral comments at the public hearing on November 12th as well, scheduled for 1 to 3 in Mabry Hall in the Jerry Apodaca Education Building. Again, these comments are limited to 3 minutes for public comment. The proposed standards were developed by a team of 60 educators from around the state. Each educator was selected in a rigorous application process. And I'm very proud to announce Erica Willer, Santa Fe Public Schools Social Studies Coordinator, was selected to serve on this committee and help write the new standards for 6th grade and the new ethnic, cultural, and identity standards. The team of writers followed guiding principles that had been developed by New Mexico Public Education Advisory Panel that was composed by higher education instructors, researchers, tribal members, and state leaders. The team of writers reviewed the current standards that had been in place for over 20 years and social studies standards from several other states, and conducted research into several national organizations, such as the National Council for the Social Studies. The proposed standards follow the same sequence of content as the former standards. However, there are important differences. The new standards are structured around 26 anchor standards that are organized into 6 strands. The strands are civics, economics, geography, history, ethnic, cultural, and identity and inquiry. The anchor standards articulate the core ideas that are aligned vertically and taught with increasing complexity through the grades. Another difference in this role are the guiding principles, how they play in expanding the historical narrative and the lens to include the impacts on and perspective of all Americans. Again, I'd like to introduce our Santa Fe Public Schools Social Studies Coordinator, Ms. Erica Willer, to provide a brief statement.
Thank you, Madam President and board members and Superintendent Chavez. It was a super fun experience to work with other teachers and colleagues from around the state and do the research that was required to come up and come together with as a group with the new standards. So we're excited about them and really do think that they will provide the academic understanding as well as the academic skills required for the 21st century.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
And now a lot of congratulations. Congratulations to Trish Garrity, principal at Nina Otero Community School. She was named Administrator of the Year by the New Mexico Association for the Gifted. Steve Hale, Santa Fe Public Schools SAGE Program Specialist, who also received an award. He is the Advocate of the Year Award from the New Mexico Association for the Gifted. Michael Margolis, a scientist and gifted education teacher, also at Nina Otero Community School, received the Gifted Teacher of the Year Award from the New Mexico Association of the Gifted. And as you heard me earlier, our own Christina Gonzalez, she is Santa Fe Public Schools Art Coordinator. She was named the New Mexico Art Education Association's Supervisor or Administrator of the Year. So again, congratulations, Christina. William Johnson from Ortiz Middle School for being named the Middle School Art Educator of the Year by the New Mexico Art Educations Association. Also, congratulations to Mandela International Magnet School, named the 6th best middle school in New Mexico by US News. We also want to congratulate our Santa Fe High School boys soccer team as they advanced to the state championship game that will be held Friday afternoon at 5:30 at the UNM complex. This is the first championship game appearance in program history. So good luck to them tomorrow. We will also be working on a plan to roll out by December 1st, a new PED requirement called Test to Stay. This program will potentially allow our students and staff who are considered close contacts and asymptomatic to continue with their in-person educational programming by continuing to test negative on days 1, 3, and 5. More of that to come as we develop out the plan. Again, last but not least, this is a kind of piggybacking off of President Noble's ask. We will be hosting a vaccine clinic for ages 5 to 11 and older students if they also want to participate. The clinic is November 13th, 10 to 3 at Desert Sage Academy. We encourage families to register through the Department of Health if they plan to receive the vaccine. So again, let me just announce that one more time. The vaccine clinic for ages 5 to 11 and older students if they want to participate. The clinic is November 13th, 10 to 3 at Desert Sage Academy, and you can start registering on the Department of Health website. And that concludes my superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, Superintendent. Lots of good news in there. Any questions from the board on topics covered there? All right, well, congratulations on all the awards. Those are significant, and we will be watching for the boys soccer team tomorrow. And it's always great to hear the good news. And thank you very much, Superintendent and wellness team, and whoever was involved in getting that vaccine clinic up and running. It's really, really great news for the community.
Agreed.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Madam President, Mr. Superintendent, great job, great presentation. Once again, as you mentioned, thank you to everybody that worked at that GOB bond election and all the work that goes into it that people don't realize and don't see. That also to the community, as we mentioned earlier, our Santa Fe delegate in the Roundhouse area, we have a very strong, great Santa Fe delegation, as well as our voters throughout the community that help and trust our Santa Fe public schools. Great job, people. Also, Mr. Superintendent, I got cut off for about 30 seconds. Did you actually include, once again, congratulations to all the educators and everything, that the awards that they received from the state of New Mexico. Did you mention the Golden Apple Awards, the 3 recipients as well?
I did not, and I apologize for that. And I will make that announcement at our next board meeting. We actually had 4, 3 from Capitol High and 1 from Santa Fe High, a team, and also yourself, Vice President Garcia, President Noble will be there in attendance. We'll be there to watch our teachers receive their award tomorrow between 11:30 and 1:30. So again, we'll bring back and actually have them attend when we can really present them properly.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Wheeler, for being here and providing us an update and for serving on that Social Studies Committee. We appreciate that. Okay, moving on to our presentations. And we thank everybody who is here for a presentation, for your patience and staying with us tonight. No, we've already been going a little while, but we will start with our Native American Student Services presentation. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. My great pleasure. Our first presentation is Native American Student Services Initiatives. And I want to introduce our Director of Native American Student Services, Miss Nancy Davis. And Ms. Davis, and I see Ms. Trujillo as well. You may want to introduce your staff if they're in attendance, but welcome. The floor is yours.
Good, greetings. Good evening, Board President Kate Noble, members of the board and Superintendent Chavez. It's my pleasure to introduce Loretta Trujillo and Nakona Burgess, who are here with us this evening to present. We're pleased to be here First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here. November is a really exciting month. As some of you may know, it's Native American Heritage Month. And Santa Fe Public Schools is wonderfully diverse with over 380 Native American students. We want to highlight and uplift our Native students and their cultures and their stories. To help bring awareness and appreciation, a lot of schools are doing their own activities and displays and call for student input, family input, but NAS, our department, has organized a few events and activities throughout the month. You can check out the Principal's Weekly Update that has a calendar of events. And to kick off these events tomorrow, we are partnering with Atalaya Elementary School, their school librarian. We're going to have a mobile resource fair and invite everyone to stop by from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock there in the library. We'll also have some movie screenings on November 8th and November 18th. And then we'll have our first ever Santa Fe Public Schools Feast Day. More information to come on that. We've collaborated with the Equity, Diversity, and Engagement Office to offer a district-wide student showcase where we are doing a call out for all of our students to submit art, poetry, writing, any type of media or music piece that they want to submit, and guidelines have been sent out. Also with the Equity and Diversity Office, Nakona Burgess, our Cultural Resource Specialist, and Cody Darnarski have created an indigenized version of our Santa Fe Public School logo. So be watching for that in Loretta's presentation. I think it's on the first or second slide. And then, of course, in a couple of weeks, we have our Thanksgiving celebration, and we want to remind our educators to be culturally appropriate and accurate. Please stay clear of the old Mayflower, the pilgrims, and the brown paper bags and construction feathers. We can do better as we emphasize gratitude and giving thanks every day. Again, resources and things like that will be shared via the Principal's Weekly Update. And at this point, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Ms. Loretta Trujillo, our College and Career Coordinator. In her work of strengthening the college and career pipeline, while also increasing student engagement, she's launched a new initiative. She wrote a grant to the Lano Education Committee, and she successfully received funding to leverage, with our current funding, in order to enhance and expand programs for our Native American secondary students. I want to acknowledge that this project is interdepartmental. We've gotten input from, of course, the art department, the science department, and community partners, as well as the Santa Fe High School leadership and educators. And I think she's done a really great job of establishing a team to move this work forward. And so at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Loretta Trujillo to share the slide presentation.
Good evening, Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Chavez, and other leadership and community members that are participating. At this time, Cody, do you have our presentation ready to view?
Cody, are you able to
Just
present?
1 second. I'm trying to find it yet. For whatever reason, everything keeps getting hidden today, and I don't know where it ends up.
That's okay. I appreciate the opportunity to share, and I can kind of get a head start. I can just start by painting a little bit of a picture of who our students are, our Native students at Santa Fe High School. We're honored to report that there's a population of 60 students enrolled over at Santa Fe High School. And when this grant was being imagined, it had a lot to do with this awareness that over the pandemic, a lot of the students who I was able to interface with were largely interested in and passionate about anything related to drawing and to other pursuits that I would associate with the arts. And so initially in this work, we imagined launching a sort of a tutoring program. And what we learned from the students was that we really needed to be asset-based And so that's sort of the shift that became what I've called the STEAM initiative. So what we're launching is a student club that is associated with the disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're doing this in an effort to boost student engagement. We hope that this will build students' confidence in those areas, and that this will altogether lead to an awareness towards college readiness. So to kind of synthesize our objectives, there's 4 of them, and I want to go ahead and start naming them one at a time. The first objective is to grow Native American student awareness and confidence in the fields of science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Our second objective is to connect students with mentors and role models who are academic and industry leaders in these associated fields. We also want to allow students to make connections between their identities as Indigenous youth and the curriculum and content that's being presented to them in their courses. And then finally, we have our fourth objective, which is to create an inclusive space where students feel safe exploring those identities as Native people, and simultaneously opening up a reflective moment for them to see their identity in relationship to the traditional Western content and concepts that are being presented to them.
We can
So,
pause a
yes.
moment, Mr.
Sure.
I think Ms. Davis said she was able to share the presentation, which I think would be great if we
Yeah.
can activate that plan. There we
Yeah.
go.
Perfect. Awesome. So this is our opening slide, and I want to give credit to an Indigenous artist who gave us permission to use this image. This is an artist who participated in some of our programming over the pandemic, and I don't want to misname him, but I will be sure to credit him in the slide in the future. Do you want to go ahead and move on, Nancy, to the next slide? So in this slide, given that I kind of got the ball rolling, I want to draw your attention to the logo that was a collaboration between Nakona Burgess, who is a professional artist in our department. He's also our curriculum and resource specialist. This design is intended to pay homage to the Tesuque land that we're on. So there's Tesuque Pueblo symbols. There's in Navajo, we wanted to honor our Navajo students. And so the statement striving for excellence is translated in Navajo. And then finally, we have the 3 colors in SFPS, or the 4 colors in SFPS that signify all of the ways that we honor the 4 directions and many other things. So Nancy, can you go to the, can you go to the next slide? So as I mentioned, we're launching a student club tied to science, technology, engineering, and math, and of course, the arts as a pathway towards college readiness. So our first objective, to grow Native American student awareness and confidence in the fields that we refer to as STEAM. To allow students to make connections between their identities as Indigenous youth and the curriculum that they're being presented with on a daily basis. To connect students with mirrors, people that look like them and come from their communities, that are architects, that are engineers, and that are engaging in the arts in a variety of professions. And then finally, we want to ensure that we're creating inclusive spaces in our classrooms for students to explore who they are in relationship to the coursework and the sort of Western approaches that they're being presented with. So in the next slide, there's a diagram that kind of synthesizes the four different stakeholders that are part of this work. We have student involvement. We're looking to build a leadership group of at least 10, but hopefully more in grades 9 through 12 at Santa Fe High School. We have the generous support and collaboration of our principal, Renee Salazar, over at Santa Fe High School and her assistant principals. And then we have 2 teacher facilitators. We have the participation of 2 advisors, and then we are working with a community partner. So in this slide, you can see some of the beautiful faces of our Indigenous students. Even just in this one slide, the Hopi Nation, Lakota Nation, Navajo Nation, Tesuque Pueblo, and yeah, all in this one slide. So I have the honor of working with these amazing people, and I'm honored to offer something for them and to work with them. So then we have 2 Indigenous advisors. Our first one is Dr. Willin Sinajini. He's a scholar in the field of mathematics. He teaches at the community college. He's Dene and Filipino, and you can see that he is a father and he is a husband, and he is just really a generous person in terms of offering his wisdom and insight to our work. We also have another scholar who's agreed to participate. His name is Dr. Anthony Durrami, and he is a specialist in ethnobotany, among other things. And here's an image of him working with our students at Amy Beale just last week, and he's remarkable. One of the main reasons I wanted to incorporate Indigenous scholars is so that they could work in conjunction with our student club to identify core values. These statements are reflective of the core values of the Native American Community Academy over in Albuquerque, but I do think that they reflect some of the conversations that we hope to have in our club to kind of identify where all of these things live in our students and how they would name them, so that those things could be embedded possibly in the work of at a district level. So in this next slide, you'll see that we're partnering with an organization that's located in Santa Fe, but is national and statewide. Climate Action Voces Unidas is, there's a number of staff people, but they have an education director who you can see here, Phil Lucero. He's alumni from Santa Fe High School, like myself. But then I wanted to highlight that their work has involved a challenge, which is a contest that highlight or invites students to highlight climate action issues and solutions through digital storytelling. So the role of Climate Action Voces Unidas is to offer a curriculum to get to ground our work in, and then ultimately we're hoping that our students in this club will submit videos and be engaged in this climate innovation challenge in May. So we also have 2 teacher advisors. Both of them are in the engineering department at Santa Fe High School. You can see them pictured here on the left and the right. And then we're also pleased to say that Angela Walker, our STEM coordinator at the district level, has just really embraced the work that we're involved in. And she has a beautiful quote here from her time with us in our first meeting. When students were asked what they wanted out of the club, their ideas were endless, everything from making a mural to recording a podcast. It was also clear that the students were craving an infinity space for Indigenous students. They shared how they do not always feel seen or understood at school. They shared how they have so much to offer, but aren't always given a platform. They shared pride in their cultures and a desire to discuss the intersectionalities of their identities. I'm honored to have been invited to such an inspiring group. Next slide. So part of what this grant and this conversation has led to is the need to be clear about why STEAM. Our district has already embraced STEM, and what we're calling for is not so much to replace STEM with STEAM, but to acknowledge that there's a place and a time and a value for arts integration. And so the the one final point I want to make on this slide is that STEAM, we feel, is the entry point for culturally responsive teaching in science and technology, and engineering and math. And that is a really critical component to helping our Native students be successful in any of these areas. So this is a sort of a diagram to help us shine a light on the difference between a STEM approach versus a STEAM approach. When teachers are engaging in STEM, they're looking just at the science standards or math standards for their content area. But with STEAM, we're actually inviting them to integrate art standards. And so the feathers are indications when we do work with teachers to kind of give them some opportunities to think about how they could be expanding their approaches and their entry points for other ways of knowing, specifically Indigenous ways of knowing. I think this is helpful just to see a shift between one way of proposing an essential question versus an indigenized version. So for math, what ways do we use math in everyday life? An indigenized version would be what ways do we experience math in our community life? And then for science, when and how do scientific theories change? We would propose that we would be asking the question, when and how did our ancestors' theories about land, water, and air change, and how? So our timeline, we have launched our STEAM Club. We've renamed it the Art and Design Club based on student input. We have selected our members of our advisory panel, and we have already brought in our community partner. And we're working on developing a class, or not class, but I guess meetings that will allow us to get a little bit more involved in CABU's project-based curriculum. In the spring, we're hoping to transition to student-driven project learning that also includes CABU's Climate Action Innovation Challenge and their submissions in May. But what I haven't really shined a light on yet is the way that we want to use our advisors to work with teachers through professional development. So we're hoping in February to have at least a one-day retreat to have conversations around rehumanizing mathematics is sort of Dr. Sinajini's specialty. And then for Dr. Jarami, talking about how to see the integration between Indigenous ways of knowing and our current NGSS standards. We also hope to finalize some core values for Indigenous education. And then I'd like to round out this year in June with a student leadership retreat. And then if you don't mind, Nancy, moving to the last slide, the way this grant is written, it's a 2-year grant. And so the plan is to implement and build at Santa Fe High School in year 1, and then to carry that over, continue the work, but then also in year 2 to invite Capitol High School and our Native students to participate. So I'm hoping that the June student retreat will be an opportunity for those students to potentially mentor Native students over at Capitol, or just to be able to speak to some of these issues and the effect that this work has had on them as we move into working with Capitol High School next year. So I just want to express gratitude for the invitation to speak and share this work. And I'm grateful to work with Native people and with my director and curriculum specialist, Nakona Burgess. Thank you so much for giving me the time to speak to this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hugh. I appreciate that lovely presentation. I'm glad we got to see it. It wouldn't be the same without. Questions, comments from the board?
Madam President.
Oh, go ahead.
No questions. I just wanted to say thank you. It was such a beautiful presentation, and I'm always impressed when we get presentations like this, but this one is especially important and relevant and meaningful, and I'm just proud to be part of Santa Fe and this wonderful community, and thanks to those doing that important work. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson.
Thank you, Board President Noble. And I echo Secretary Beausay's remarks that this is just a particularly wonderful presentation. I know we were able to sit down a few weeks ago, and I was able to learn more about the program, and I'm so glad that the full board has learned more about the program. And I just want to applaud you for all of your hard work. This is just a truly incredible initiative, and really shows the care and thought that you and your department put into this work. And I'm also so glad to see so many partners in pursuing this work. So that's fantastic. I did just have one question. So one of the things that you mentioned sort of at the beginning was that these students have so much to offer. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I wondered if there was a way, and maybe this is already set up, and if you could just speak to it, if there's sort of a back and forth such that students can integrate what they're learning in STEAM Club and the ways in which the standards are indigenized back to their STEM class or their STEAM classes. So their, biology class or that sort of thing, without putting the burden of educating their peers and their teachers on them. If there's a way for them to be centered in that and sort of have a way for that information to move back and forth between the extracurricular and the required classes as well.
Well, thank you, both board members, for your gracious acknowledgement of our work as a department. I think it's a really important question that you raised, Board Member Anderson. I think for now, what I'm hoping is that our advisors can inject this sort of new paradigm with the PLCs that are happening in the science and math department. And then through the leadership retreat in June, what I'm thinking based on your comments is that would be a moment to make sure that the students have the confidence to do that in year 2 at Santa Fe High. To me, that might be a little bit more comfortable, because I'm happy to say that these students are little by little, they're trusting us, but there also is a lot of trauma that they've shared. And I feel like a lot of the work is actually restorative, showing them through even just being able to share that I was invited to present to you, the school board. That was really validating to them. And so I feel like it's a process, but I do think that is a beautiful thing to integrate into that leadership retreat in June. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Board President Noble.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
I just wanted to make note, it's a great collaboration, not only with the department, but also it sits under teaching and learning. But we also identified federal stimulus funding for this department over the next 3 years to really help grow and foster the services they provide to our students. So just wanted to say thank them for all they do and all the services they provide.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Trujillo. Very good presentation. It's good to see that we're working with the indigenous individuals. In regards to the grant, you did answer my question. As a 2-year grant. What's the amount of the grant, or are we covered for the full duration of the 2 years from everybody that's placing some money into the services that are rendered for this?
Board Member Garcia, the grant was a $40,000 total award, dispersed in increments of $20,000 for this year and then $20,000 for next year.
Thank you, Madam President. And this one last question, because some of my questions were answered. The presentation that you actually presented to us, has that actually been brought forward to Sucre Pueblo as well as the Navajo Nation, the 2 pueblos involved?
No, at this time I haven't taken those steps, but our Indigenous advisor, Dr. Durrami, is from Tesuque Pueblo, and so I'm in appreciation of your points, because I think that that's something that I definitely want to present to him and move forward on. I think that's an important next step.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Hill. And Madam President, just to let you know, I'm watching the presentation stuff on my laptop. I cannot get on video-wise, but nonetheless, I'm about 27 seconds behind on the presentation, but I'm here listening. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. And just wanted to give Mr. Burgess a chance to make any comments about that wonderful logo or anything else. And we appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to be here. Yeah, we're just trying to interject a lot of, indigenous curriculum for the kids to see themselves in and for other kids to see in all of our programming. We have good programs at Amyville, Milagro, and Gonzales right now, and hoping to expand once we kind of get those rolling. As far as the logo, the design, the pottery design is done by Dr. Dormy. It's a Tsuki pottery design, and he was talking about how they do floral designs. And so it's kind of represents plants and flowers, and then the thundercloud in there. So I had him design that, and then we kind of photoshopped it and put it in and replaced it with a star. And of course, the eagle feather is kind of cultural across the United States and Canada and Mexico, a lot of indigenous tribes. And then the four colors represent the medicine wheel, which is the four directions, and a lot of fours in native culture. So it comes from the medicine wheel. And then of course we use, like she said, the Diné or Navajo language for striving for excellence. So we just wanted to kind of be inclusive of our tribes, the Tsuke, that we're on Tsuke land. And then with the Navajo language being that we have the majority of our native students are Navajo tribe. And then we have tribes from outside the state. So that's kind of how so it's between myself, Cody, and Tony. We all kind of put that thing together. So we thought it came out really good. And thank you, Cody. You put it together really nice.
Thank you. Anything else on this? Well, thank you all for the great work you do. It'll be wonderful to see this unfold. We are so appreciative of your leadership and continuing to educate lots of us and improve our system and indigenize as much as we can. Really appreciate it.
Real quick, everyone, Madam President, I'd just like to say thank you for everybody. We've had great support from all the schools, administrators, teachers. We've had lots of requests for music class, biology class, history class, science class, and we've been implementing all these different subjects. And it's just been really great. It's just really been great for support and from all the schools and all the administrators. So I'd just like to say thanks on behalf of NAS.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much, Mr. Burgess. And thank you, Ms. Trujillo, Ms. Davis. Great to see you. Come back again. It's nice to get these updates. Really nice. Appreciate it. Okay. We will move on to our next presentation, the Santa Fe Public Schools partnership with Reading Quest. And I see that the director of Reading Quest, Ms. Raina Deneen, is here. We appreciate your patience. And Superintendent, I don't know if you were going to introduce this one.
Thank you, Board President Noble. I will take the pleasure in introducing one of our many community partners, and I had the great pleasure of meeting her in my office to discuss this presentation a few months ago, actually. So again, I'd like to introduce Executive Director of Reading Quest, Raina Deneen, and the partnership between Santa Fe Public Schools and Reading Quest. So floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Superintendent Chavez, Board President Noble, Vice President Garcia, and members of the board. Cody, do you have my presentation possibly? Woo. Thank you so much. First, I just want to say a huge thank you for our partnership. This is all about how we work with you and a little bit about what's coming and some recent great news and things that have been going on. And I also want to just say I was so impressed today by the art that we saw and, just the incredible talent and potential of all of our kids. And that includes their potential with reading. But it was awesome to see all of that. And we also work with Native American Student Services. So I feel like I got very lucky tonight to be here. So next slide, please, Cody. So for those of you who don't know, we provide really engaging structured literacy services for children who tend to be 1 or more years behind grade level in reading. Next slide. And we have a team now, we're up to 18 reading specialists who are adults. And then we also have a group of about 15 teens. But we serve more than 300 kids every week, and 95% of those children attend Southside schools. And the kids come to us by their teachers. They're referred by their teachers, the kids who really need that extra support. And recently we received a grant from the Sony Foundation, and they support nonprofits that are working toward equity for underserved populations. And this film just came out yesterday, and I thought we could show it to you all. It's just short. Go ahead, Cody. And I don't know if you can make it full screen or. And great.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you guys. It's so long. Good to see you.
Today is the second day.
Wow. Look how tall you are.
It's our job at Reading Quest to find kids or take in kids who are reading below grade level and help them, not only to help them feel better in school and better about reading in general, but to give them a love of reading that changes kids' lives.
Yes, Christiana, that was a massive word and you got it.
So, you know, nationwide, about 40% of kids are able to read proficiently at grade level. And that's because about 60% of kids really need phonics and they need to learn by the science of reading. And here we're the lowest in the nation, in New Mexico. And I saw the need for years and years. I've been teaching for 40 years. So we really want to help kids fall in love with reading, love books, and really feel like they can reach their dreams. And they need to learn how to read in English in order to do that.
Reading Quest changed my life by getting me in a state of mind that nothing's impossible, ever impossible. And they got me from a kindergarten level to a 3rd grade level in the span of 2 weeks. And when I got to 3rd grade, I was so proud of myself for now being able to read in that genre. They give you that courage and they unlock something that you never knew you had.
If you are having fun, you're really engaged and you're much more likely to remember what you're learning, and you're more likely to want to keep doing it. We are, as much as possible, gamifying what we do. So we have original board games. We have games that we've adapted into reading games by using our own word cards. And then we just do so many things that are like a game, like counting up their word cards and leveling up and counting how many books they've read and leveling that up. We put on these plays, which now are movies, and they'll read their lines over and over and over. They don't even think about it. It doesn't feel like homework. It doesn't feel like something that's challenging because they're so motivated.
Reading Quest has changed a lot of stuff in my life because every time I got called on when I was in 2nd grade, they would say, "Oh my God, look at this kid doesn't know how to read," and they got really sad. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna do anything in my life. But then when I saw Reading Quest, I was like, oh my God, I could do it, I could do it.
More than anything, I hope, that they get the best in whatever they decide to pursue. I hope that they get all the opportunities and they get a confidence in themselves so that, whatever obstacle or whatever comes their way as they're growing up, they can feel like they can challenge it and take it head on and accomplish whatever it is they want to.
Seeing them be confident enough to dream, because that's hard when you're coming from certain circumstances in life. You're not thinking about what you want in your future, you're thinking about how to survive the day. We take that pressure away from them. If you're not dreading going to school, not understanding your homework, not understanding what your teacher is saying, you get to have the headspace to dream and look forward to your future.
I want to continue with Reading Quest, and I'm so excited for it because I really just want to be a part of Reading Quest and change other kids' lives like they did with mine.
Thank you, Cody. And I'd like to give special thanks to Growing Up New Mexico because they have been our very kind like hosts. They host us in their building and it's really beautiful and we're very grateful to them. And also to Fox Clan Productions because they've been filming for us in our summer program. Now that we can't have, people come and watch our plays, they've been so kind to make our movies like you saw. Our program is really successful with our English language learners. Many of us speak Spanish and many of my tutors are native Spanish speakers. And our program is also, we work really hard to be linguistically and culturally responsive. Next slide, please. Each year on average, the kids that we tutor show 1.5 or more years growth on iCIEtion, even though these are often the kids who haven't been showing growth, sometimes for many years. We tutor during the school day, 1 hour a week for each child at Sweeney, Camino Real, Nino Otero, and Amy Beale. And then we serve another whole group of kids after school and on the weekends. And we just really feel supported. Peter and Vanessa have been amazing, and Kristen Lewis, and just everyone we work with. We love the schools that we work in, and we feel really grateful. This is our 10th year now doing this work with the schools. Next slide, please. This just shows a little graph. On average, for the past 10 years, our summer camps do show on average 1 year's growth in oral reading fluency and accuracy using the ORA standardized test. We also give away thousands of books each year. They get to choose which book they want. We have thousands of them on a digital slideshow, so we can show kids in school and they can choose the books that they want. And at our center, of course, they can choose them in person, and then they get them delivered to their home when we see them in school. We also provide workshops. As many of you know, we've done workshops for hundreds of Santa Fe public school teachers. We've been helping doing workshops for people who are interested in volunteering in the schools. We do workshops for parents, often in the evenings at schools, and we do them in Spanish or in English. And then we also do trainings for teens who are interested in both tutoring, but also we're hoping to create, be part of that pipeline to get more kids interested in becoming teachers. If any of you visit our website, you'll see that we've made teaching videos that hundreds of teachers use across the country. And we use our local kids to make the videos. And we have a lot of teacher resources that we provide for teachers. And the district has purchased some of those resources also to support teachers, because that's our whole thing. We just want to support our hardworking teachers. Okay, next slide. We just received a grant also from LANL, similar to NAS, and it's going to support a 3-year pilot program for 1 or 2 Southside schools. And so we're going to be partnering with NMSU's SOAR Evaluation and Policy Center, and we're going to be able to provide tutoring and teacher support for all of the 1st through 3rd graders who need it at 1 or 2 schools. So we should be able to see like a pretty significant change for the whole school then as those kids move up in grades. And this is the last video we have. A teacher who heard we were going to be presenting tonight asked if she could just make a really quick testimonial. So if you can hit play, Cody, I don't know if it'll work.
Hello, my name is Lisa, and this is my son, Eliam. And he is currently receiving tutoring at Reading Quest, and it's been extremely beneficial to him. I am also a teacher, and I discovered Reading Quest when I had students that were about 2 or 3 grade levels behind, and it was amazing to see the self-esteem in the kids that I sent to Reading Quest and their love of reading that was ignited again after starting the Reading Quest tutoring. And I really hope this is available to all students, especially after our pandemic and just the need for our children in New Mexico, specifically in Santa Fe, to be able to be literate. And I firmly believe it's a social justice issue. So please support Reading Quest. Please bring in more tutors to every single school in our community. Our families and children desperately need it. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody. And yeah, I'm wondering if there's any questions. I just really want to say thank you for our partnership.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, my mute
Hello?
off. Hi, Madam President, members of the board. I was fortunate enough this summer to be able to attend one of the Reading Quest camps, summer camps, and I think it was 1st through 3rd grade. And the students were so engaged. It was really fun to watch. And the young people, the tutors, were mostly, I would say, high school or early college students. And they were also very engaged. Everybody was wearing a mask. Everybody seemed totally into what they were doing. And they were all working on developing their play, which I never got to see, but they were excited about doing that. And so, and I've been a real fan of Reading Quest for several years since I've been involved with the reading group. So Raina does great work. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gonzalez. And if you'd like to see the plays, the movies, they're on our website now.
Okay, great.
Madam President.
Hang on a second, Vice President Garcia. Bazaya had her hand up, and then we'll come to you, all right?
You'll come to me? That's fine.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. Now that I've dried my eyes sufficiently from that beautiful video, I just want to say, wow, it's enough of a gift, a huge gift, to love reading. That's just magical in and of itself. But to see the self-esteem and the confidence that those kids have and the community that they clearly have when they're in the facility, thank you. Such a wonderful, wonderful gift. And thank you for sharing it with us tonight.
Thanks. Thank you.
Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. Reading Quest, thank you for what you do for the community, for the schools, especially the individual children that need a little bit of some assistance. Thank you for the supporting our hardworking teachers, as you mentioned. Appreciate you applying for the grants on your own. It's great. I can remember when I was involved in the book club, this will probably show my age, however, and probably President Noble's, is we used to fill out a piece of paper and look at all the books on a checklist, and then we would buy the book, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, the book would come, something similar, but I'm sure it's done a little bit differently. But Reading Quest, thank you for what you do. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez. You're still muted.
So
I went through all the rigmarole there, Madam President, and everybody else. What I was going to say, I forgot to mention that Raina had said that a lot of the students that were in that summer camp didn't even know how to write their letters because they'd been in first grade and kindergarten online. So they learned a lot that summer. Thank you.
So can you be available to everybody in the public schools? I mean, it's so valuable. And this year, I think we know that there's more learning loss than ever. It's just a weird time. I'm just wondering sort of what more we can do. And it's an incredible video for an incredible organization. And thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for bringing this forward for a presentation. Really appreciate that. But I do wonder with the magic that happens here, and it's extraordinary that pace at which clearly grade level achievements in reading can come. So I do wonder how we can make this more widely available.
I mean, that's our dream. And already Superintendent Chavez has been so supportive of us. I'm really grateful. And our hope is that starting with the pilot, perhaps next year, and then if we did get more funding, we're constantly trying to raise money so we can expand. But that's the hope, is perhaps there's some more funding out there that'll help us to expand to more schools.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your work and for supporting the students in the amazing ways that you do. And the tutors are heroes, and please pass on our thanks for all of the great stuff. And yeah, and we can, we'll share the video on social media and hopefully be able to keep moving forward in the partnership.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving along to our action items. Vice President Garcia, I don't think you were here at the beginning. I will need to recuse myself for action item B. So I hope you'll be able to take over and run the meeting at that point. We'll do the consent item first, and if not, you can let us know and Secretary Bose can take over, but I need to recuse myself for action item B. But we'll go ahead and start. Yep, go ahead, Secretary.
Do we need to pull the minutes out from the last meeting as well, since I was not in attendance? Is it okay for me to vote on that?
We have said again and again, it's best practices if you're not here to vote on the minutes separately and abstain from that. We achieve that with mixed results, but yeah, why don't we go ahead, and is there anything else, any other questions on our consent agenda? And if not, maybe we could have a motion for consent items 1 and 2.
Madam President, I move for approval of action items A, consent items number 1 and number 2. 3, number 1 and 3, sorry.
1 and 2.
We want 1 and 2, Vice President Garcia.
My apologies, Madam President. Make a motion for action item A, consent items number 1 and number 2.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for our consent agenda items 1 and 2. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia?
Yes.
Secretary Bose?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
And the president also votes yes. Thank you very much. Moving on to consent item number 3, the minutes for October 21st in our regular meeting. Is there a motion? Any changes?
Madam President, if there's no changes, I'd like to make a motion for Action items number 3, minutes for October 21st, 21 regular meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia and Dr. Gonzalez. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on that. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Bozay,
Abstain?
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yeah, yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
and the President also votes yes. Thank you very much. At this stage, moving on to action item B, I am going to recuse myself from this item, so I will be muting and turning off my video. Vice President Garcia, the chair is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. For action item, sorry about that. Action item B is Growing Up New Mexico Adobe Building Lease Extension. Mr. Superintendent, can you do the presentation for that, please?
Sure. Thank you, Vice President Garcia. At this time, I would like to introduce Santa Fe Public School Legal Counsel, Mr. Josh Granada, as he will walk us through this lease.
Good evening, Vice President Garcia, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. Before you tonight is an amendment to the lease agreement between Santa Fe Public Schools and what was known as United Way of Santa Fe County. There are 2 items on this amendment to the lease agreement. Number 1 is that the United Way of Santa Fe County has changed its name to Growing Up New Mexico Incorporated. And so this amendment will reflect the changes of the change in the name of the corporation throughout the lease agreement. And secondly, and importantly, is the part of the lease that allows for an extension of the lease agreement. So the lease will be extended for 1 more year. The Santa Fe Public Schools is renting to Growing Up New Mexico or United Way the facility known as the Adobe Building, which is located on 3160 Agua Fria Street. And basically that's really it. That's really it for the board's contemplation tonight. Growing Up New Mexico would like to lease the building for 1 more year. I've had preliminary talks with Growing Up New Mexico about extending the lease in the future. And so we're looking to go ahead and go forward with that. And it'll require entering into a new lease and bringing it to the State Board of Finance. But at this point in time, we're simply looking to extend the current lease for 1 more year. And so I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Granada. Is there any questions of the board?
Vice President Garcia, I move approval of action item B.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion to move for approval and a second. And for discussion, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Granada. Currently, what is the duration of the current lease?
So the initial lease, Vice President Garcia, was for 5 years. And after 5 years, the Growing Up New Mexico was allowed to extend the lease for 1 year, a total of 3 times. They've done so twice in the past, and this is the last year in which they can extend the lease. And as I mentioned just briefly before, we would look to go into another lease agreement with Growing Up New Mexico. We've only had very preliminary discussions, but that lease would need to be taken to the State Board of Finance for approval. And so.
Correct. Thank you for that, Mr. Granada. So really quick, for my bearings, where is 3160 Agua Fria?
So Vice President Garcia, if you're familiar with what was formerly known as Agua Fria Elementary School, there's a small Adobe building, which was part of the original campus. It's currently the NIE, or Early Education School, where Agua Fria was once. And so that's where it is.
Thank you for that, Mr. Granada. Just a little bit of information on that old Adobe building there that has a lot of significance to the old Agua Fria historic traditional community. but thank you for that. And so I have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, thank you. Aye as well as the Vice President. Motion passes. Thank you, board members. We will wait for President Noble to get back on video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Moving along to item C, the resolution on our staffing crisis. I appreciate so much all of the work that has gone into this. I just want to say, I think that it's quite good. It is a resolution declaring a crisis in educator staffing and providing a framework for finding solutions with community and governmental partners. Just as a few updates since we've last seen it, I want to thank Ruth Williams and Alma Behar, and I think there are others who worked on this and added the some of the findings of the NEA survey that President Mayer presented to the board a little while ago. I also want to thank Board Member Anderson for inserting some excellent language to improve the resolution about our BIPOC and Indigenous work, and looking to really meet part of our staffing crisis. And to say that we have, I think, an extraordinary and maybe unprecedented moment in that Councillor and Mayor Pro Tem Signe Lindell is bringing a companion resolution at the City of Santa Fe to lay the foundation that is outlined in the therefore be it resolved, as well as the case made in all of the whereases. When she introduced it, there were many co-sponsors who signed on. Early on, we had one councillor from every district, including Councillor Romana Beta, Councillor Romero Worth, Councillor Lindell, and Councillor Cassett. We're the first four, and at this stage, I believe we have 7 at least co-sponsors at the city. There are 9 members of the governing body in total, so it would seem this will pass the City of Santa Fe. And the unprecedented thing is that our own Vice President Rudy Garcia, who of course also serves as a county commissioner, told us earlier in this meeting that he will be bringing this to the county commission on November 30th. So the potentially unprecedented moment is that we have 3 local governments working together on companion resolutions, and the fact that it is calling out a framework for dealing with the incredibly serious issue of the staffing crisis that we're seeing for educators, for bus drivers, cafeteria workers, everyone in the public schools, and we know how affected we are. We heard some of the stories in our public comment earlier tonight, and really pleased that our therefore be it resolved addresses a lot of these issues, looks to the legislature to change the restrictions for retirees, looks to increase educator pay, as well as addressing some of the foundational issues in our community, like the cost of housing and how we can house our folks who need to live and work in this community. And personally, I feel that this is something that is at the beating heart of this community. If we can't have our Santa Fe public school staff live and work in Santa Fe, we lose our community. And it's become so clear to me during my 4.5 years on the board that that we are the community, we are the talent in the Santa Fe Public Schools, not to mention developing the talent for the future, raising the children. This is the foundation of everything in this community, and it seems so important. So I really appreciate all of the support and the partnership from the City of Santa Fe, the County Commission, as well as other community partners, the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce and the Santa Fe Housing Action Coalition, which is committed to really being the convening and facilitation body to work on some housing solutions between these governmental bodies and other community partners. So I think that's all of the updates I have on this. I don't know if there are any other questions or comments from the board.
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
thank you. Very well said. I just appreciate the president bringing this forward and everybody who assisted. Great job. This is something that is much needed throughout our community, and governmental entities communicating together and working towards a greater goal for the best of the community. I didn't have as many counselors to talk to on the county commission, but I can definitely almost guarantee that the county commission have a unanimous vote for this resolution. As you mentioned earlier, anywhere from housing to the shortage of employment throughout the district is very needed for this community, for our students. And we are working on an affordable housing plan ordinance through Santa Fe County, which will assist this resolution as we move forward. But once again, thank you and everybody who worked on this for bringing this forward. Much needed. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Board Member Anderson.
Thank you, Board President Noble. I just want to say thank you to you and to all the staff who worked so hard in putting this resolution together and in having the insight to do so. I think this is absolutely critical, particularly after we heard the NEA update about the survey of educators. So I really appreciate it. And if I could, I just wanted to make one comment about the changes. Well, a couple comments. One is to thank you so much for being so amenable to those changes. I really appreciate it. And also thank you to Superintendent Chavez for pulling together the numbers so quickly about the percentage of Indigenous teachers that we have in the district. It might seem a little strange maybe to people who are watching or to others to specifically call out one demographic group when we're dealing with such a massive shortage, but I think it is really critical both for our Indigenous students and for our non-Indigenous students to see Indigenous educators represented in the classrooms. And when we have a disconnect between, a 4% population of Indigenous people in Santa Fe County and a 1.5% population of Indigenous educators in our schools, I just think it's really important to work as hard as we can to ensure that we are recruiting and identifying and building that Indigenous teacher population. I am from Oklahoma, which has the second largest Indigenous population in the country, and I never had an Indigenous educator in my entire school career. And my daughter had an Indigenous pre-K teacher in SFPS, and it made a huge difference for our family. So I'm just hopeful that we can provide that same experience to other Indigenous families in the district. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Anderson. I guess I'll go ahead and move approval of Resolution 2021/2022-4, our staffing crisis resolution.
I will second that.
Madam President, I'm sure we're all standing in line waiting to second it, but nonetheless, we're all on the same page, which is great. But
I got new internet. Otherwise, Vice President would have beaten me, but I got new internet. So.
That's good.
I fourth.
That's good. I was wondering if your internet was quicker off the mark. I think that's good stuff. All right.
Well, mine isn't here in La Cienega, unfortunately, but nonetheless, sorry, Madam President.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Bozay,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes, and thank you again.
Thank you. And the president also votes yes. So we have unanimously approved that. Thank you all very much. I also should say a big thanks to President Grace Mayer of NEA Santa Fe for the information, for the championing of these issues, and for being a great partner in working on this. Really appreciate you, Ms. Mayer, and all your work. And also, I just want to say thank you to everybody. And maybe this is my moment to say what our former board member Maureen Cashman would say to everybody right around this time, which is that she was very big on board members emailing the schools that they represent to say thank you. We heard some of the particulars from public comment tonight, and I know lots of you have heard your own versions of this, but it's really extraordinary how everyone in the district is covering gaps, whether from sickness, whether from quarantine, or because we are losing people. This has been, as I think I characterized it at some point, it's been a sort of downhill slide in educator staffing and the crisis, but COVID really accelerated it. And people are exhausted, and sometimes they need to make health decisions to leave their jobs. And that is leaving more and more gaps. And I know that folks at the district level are stepping in at school sites sometimes. Certainly principals are teaching and covering gaps in classrooms. Other teachers are taking on burdens. I mean, when you get to the particulars, it's really extraordinary how many cracks and vacancies and absences and issues are being covered on a daily basis. And the fact that we as board members, frankly, hear as little as we do means that everybody is figuring it out and holding it together. And this is a good time of year for gratitude. And so it may be worth all of us thinking about how we can really truly show our gratitude to everybody who has been holding it together as and just tapping all of the reserves that they have as individuals and in their families and communities to keep going until there's a break. And yeah, just so appreciative. And we hope that this resolution does lay the foundation for some relief in something that's been very, very serious for a while and has become a crisis. Okay, thank you. I can talk about that a lot. It's been a really humbling thing to hear some of the particulars, but we'll go ahead and move on. And thank you all again. Action item D, first reading of amended policy 100, the duties and authority of the board. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble and members of the board. At this time, we want to amend policy 100. This will be the first reading of it. Duties and authority of the board. Santa Fe Public School Legal Counsel, Josh Granata.
Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Chavez. As the superintendent indicated, we have the proposed amendments to Board Policy 100. And as board president, you may recall a number of meetings ago, you asked the district to take a look at this policy. It had been a custom of the board to have a reorganization vote in terms of the president and vice president and secretary after board elections. So this policy will will get in line with the recent changes to the election code. And so that now with the changes to this policy in January, after board elections, basically annually on January, the board will reorganize itself as a matter of policy. And so those are the changes to this policy before you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Granata. Questions from the board?
Madam Chair, just for clarification, Madam President, for clarification, this is just the first reading, right? We still have another reading and then approval of the actual resolution?
So this is a board policy. We do have two approvals. One is of presumably of this first reading, and then our second reading makes it final. So you are correct. This is a first reading.
Thank you, Madam President. If there's no other questions or discussion, if we have to make a motion for the first reading, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the first reading.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Any further questions? We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Bozay,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
and the president also votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to action item E, our memorandum of understanding between Santa Fe Public Schools and the Santa Fe Federation of School Employees for fiscal year 2021-2022. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble and members of the board. Again, this is an agreement between Santa Fe Public Schools and the Santa Fe Federation of School Employees for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. We did come up with an agreement that is in line with our previous agreement with NEA Santa Fe for a retention stipend for represented employees of $2,000. This payment will be distributed in January for currently employed individuals who will return to work January 2nd. So we did have to have an agreement in place and standards so we could meet the expectations of using ESSER 2 or 3 as the funding source. So this also is a 1% increase in salary for this school year. And again, this is in line with our previous agreement with NEA Santa Fe. So our recommendation is approval of the MOU, which includes the items described above.
Thank you,
Madam President,
yes, Secretary Bozay.
I move to approve this MOU.
Second.
Thank you, Secretary Bozay. I think that was Board Member Anderson with the second. Any further discussion or questions?
Madam President, I know this is actually something that the employees of the district and who worked on it, some of the deputy superintendents, a great job. This is something that actually is negotiation, bargaining with the regarding the current MOU, but thank you, great job for bringing this forward at just a rapid pace. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on approval of this agreement. Vice President Garcia,
Yes.
Secretary Bozay,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
and the president also votes yes. Thank you, thank you.
Great, thank you. And may I mention, Mr. Olguin, the president of the union, could not be here with us tonight, but he wanted to also say thank you for approving this MOU.
Thank you very much. And it looked like Mr. Romero was poised and ready to answer questions. So thank you also for your work on this, and anybody else who has been on this one. Appreciated. Action item F, retention stipends for non-union administrative and confidential employees.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Again, this is retention stipend for non-union administrative and confidential employees. Again, we would like to extend these retention stipends to additional staff if approved. And again, these retention stipends would be funded out of ESSER 2 or 3. And they would also be covering business services, human resources, our cafe managers, student nutrition, and additional staff. These retention stipends would be in the amount of $1,000. That is in line with our admin stipends that we previously approved at a board meeting. And again, these are out of ESSER 2 and 3. They need to return to work but on January 2nd to receive these stipends that month. So again, our recommendation is for approval of these retention stipends for non-union admin and confidential employees.
Any questions for the superintendent?
President Noble, I move to approve.
Thank you, Board Member Anderson.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. And just to say, I know the superintendent has identified some of the issues of really incredibly low salaries in some key areas. Human resources, again, we heard about that in public comment tonight. And as we go forward, it does seem really important that we get a high functioning human resources department. And this is a first step. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Garcia?
Yes.
Secretary Bozay?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
And the president also votes yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate this coming forward.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to item 11, board discussion and possible action. We are returning with our fiscal year 2021-2022 board committee appointments. Does anyone have any committee appointments to make at this time? Seeing.
Madam.
Yes, go ahead, Vice President.
Madam President, I'm still in the search for somebody to be placed on the audit committee. If anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Anything else for board discussion and possible action? All right. We're moving swiftly along. Advanced planning, item 12. We have our legislative breakfast on Tuesday morning, the 9th at 7:30 a.m. The CRC is scheduled for Wednesday evening. The audit committee is scheduled for Thursday. And then we have our regular meeting on November 18th. Also, I'm pretty sure Alma has reached out to everyone about the NMSBA annual convention, December 2 through 4. So please, if you haven't yet responded to her on your desire to be registered for that conference, please do. Anything else on advanced planning? Okay, going once, going twice. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your service and onwards.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.